we are likely, and I am forecasting to see these price ranges with an average of $111,258. Welcome to Self Wealth Crypto. This is Chris, and today we will be discussing my all-time high prediction for Bitcoin after the next Bitcoin halving. First, I need to say I am not a financial advisor. These are strictly my opinions based on data that I have used through Google. All right, so let's break this down really quickly so everyone can understand what's going on here, and then we'll get right on into it. As you can see, these are all approximate date ranges, and I'll explain them in a minute. But what I mean by that, these are ranges in between here, in between here, in between here. Those are our ranges. All right. Over here, we have our point of control since inception of Bitcoin. Up here, we have our current all-time high. Now, how did I get all this data? We'll begin with expected Bitcoin halving. Well, that's really easy to do. Simply head on over to Bitcoin, or I mean, to Google, and just put wow, try that again. Next Bitcoin halving date. My mouth is dry, sorry. And you will see several different dates, but it's a range, right? Because there's no exact, it's based on the amount of blocks that are mined. But if you just happen to go through, you'll see expected to occur early 2024. This one here has an exact date, April 27th. March, February to June, which is March and April. 840,000 blocks need to be mined. But again, March, right? Everyone says March, April. So that's what I did. Based on that date that I had, as we went over here, I couldn't get the 27th, so I went to the 29th. Okay. April 29th, 2024. That was what I marked. I couldn't get the 27th on the chart. So there you are. And then I said, well, what's the earliest we can get back to March? Because there's February 26th, week of March the 4th. So that's where our range for expected Bitcoin halving date. That's what I have here. So how did I get 477 days prior to Bitcoin halving? Well, again, head on over to Google and simply ask, how many days after halving does Bitcoin reach? I was going to put all-time high, but this popped up immediately, so I didn't have to finish it. And it says, according to Pantera Capital, Bitcoin typically hits a bottom 477 days prior to the halving, and then reaches a peak in the bull market cycle approximately 400 days after the halving. So we have 477 days prior to the halving, and then a peak or all-time high was what we're trying to figure out, approximately 480 days after the halving. So we head on over back to our chart, and we go, it's going to be in this area, but how do I know exactly where? Well, now that we know 477 days prior, we go on over to Google again, open up a new one, and go, what is 477 days before April 29th? Now, the reason I have 29th as opposed to 27th, like it said here, is because the chart wouldn't let me find the 27th. So I went with the 29th based on our chart. 477 days prior or before April 24th, we have January 8th, 2023. Now keeping on this side, because this is our first date and this is our range, right? So first date, January 9th, 2023. That's our first line. And then our range gap, I measured it over and just plopped it in. Then we go forward, 480 days after the Bitcoin halving. Remember, 480 days after the halving, and this is an approximate, right? 480 days after. 480 days after April 29th, because that is our date on our chart. And that works out to being August 22nd, 2025. Go over here, August 25, 2025. I can't get 22nd, so we go to the closest one. I find our range, I measure it in, I plopped it in. So now we have our actual data dates based on Google search, and then our range is our previous line. Interesting enough, what happens is when I plop that all out, you will notice, I will zoom in, our current pre-halving low is almost bang on to our range. So our early range date is set for November 7th, and we hit, well, it looks like right on. That one line right there is our actual lower one. So we're off by a week. Right, October 31st, November 7th, 1 week off. So that's what that is. My mouth is really dry, I apologize. And I don't have a drink around me anywhere at the moment. So we have a couple spider lines here, but they're not your typical spider lines as we drawn out in the other video about spider lines. If you haven't seen that, head on over to the top corner there, click on that, and have a review on that video. But here's the range for that spider line section. I just took the low and threw that one up. Because we're working on all-time high video, I figured why not mark the highs? So that's what I did. High, high. And what I noticed was it pretty much touched bang on with our other previous highs. Now, what is this here about? You're probably wondering. Well, I wanted to know what is the percentage drop from our all-time high to my low when I was charting. Our all-time high line is right there. There's our candle for it. But I wanted to be conservative. I didn't want to beat our current all-time high. I wanted to beat the previous. So that's what this one is here. So that's where I marked from our previous all-time high down to where we were when I started drawing this all out. And that worked out being 68.75%. If you go down to our range here, it works out to being 69.70%. Again, this is approximate, so you can leave a little bit of leeway. Now we move over to here. Now we have all that data. We move that 68% on over to here. And then it's just on the sidelines. We're not actually needing it other than for marking out our approximate range. So I'm going to remove these prices for a moment just so you guys can get a better look at what we're doing here. Those ones we'll leave up there. All right. As I mentioned earlier, these are our spider lines. Here's our future range lines in the vertical. So what I've done with these little blue lines right here, in case you're wondering what these are all about, is they're just intersecting markers for our spider line and our range meetups. So there, 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 there. I also did it further up on the moonshots, which we'll talk about in a minute. This line here is just the middle of the 4, which I'll explain right away. This was just to confirm the spider line, you know, to give it some confirmation that, okay, we're going to be in this range. We got all of this control here, so it's going to be likely in this range, most likely here. But again, this is a range. So now, let's put those prices back up. And let's talk a little bit more in depth with them. So as I mentioned, these intersections are price ranged. So if you look right here and then look onto the, so this intersection right here meets up with this price right here, right? 104,282. That's what this one is here. This next line right here, 10,700 or 107,731. That should have been changed. That's slightly off. That should have been 731. Let's see if we can change this quickly. There we go. Easy peasy. That one's done. Next line. We'll worry about this in a second. I'll explain this one here. I'll erase this one just to explain it in a minute to you guys. Next line up. 115,569. Why is it slightly off? I'm not sure why my numbers are different. I had this all figured out. So I guess we're going to do this on the fly, guys. 115,569 is supposed to be, according to the side there. And then 117,450. See, I don't know why it changed. That's so weird. I must have changed something. But anyways, we'll just go with what we got according to our lines because they want to mess it up. Right? Anyways, so that's what these are. These are just price ranges to mark our 4 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this one here was going to be, well, I guess, again, we're going to do it on the fly here, right? So let's just do that. Let's grab a text box. Let's put it right on that dot. We'll just put a random number for now because we have to do some math to figure out the actual amount. So how are we going to do that? Well, let's pull up a calculator. And let's add up our amounts. Move this over here so you guys can see it. All right, so what did we have? 104,282. Plus 107,731 plus 115,569 plus 117,450 equals, divide that by the amount of numbers we used, which was 4. We used 4 numbers. We divide that by 4. $111,258. There we go. And that is our average, most likely priced, future price for Bitcoin. Now, again, I just followed this spider line for a moonshot. If we were to see some moonshot, we're likely to see 142,327 to 146,638. There has been talk about people saying 150,000. So, I mean, we're right there for a moonshot. All right, so now that we've done all this and explained everything, I'm gonna just blow this up a little bit bigger so you guys can really see all these numbers and dates. And I will give you a final breakdown of what I think we have in the future for Bitcoin. So I think between, I'm gonna go back one line just because, no, we're keeping it on the lines. Between June 23rd, 2025 and August 25th, 2025, we are likely, and I am forecasting to see these price ranges with an average of $111,258, give or take $500. Okay? There you are. All right, that is all I have for this video. If you like what you've seen and you want to learn more about cryptocurrency and how to start earning money from zero and work your way up, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you are aware when we do drop new videos. I am Chris. This is Self Wealth Crypto. Thank you all for coming out. See you on the next show. Peace.